Hello, welcome to our Skills Impact series, and I'm really excited today to welcome Vickie Patterson from the Bay Area Workforce Development Board in Northeast Wisconsin. Hi, Vickie.
Hi, Anne.
It's so good to see
Thank
you
you for having
today.
me.
Oh my gosh, of course, absolutely. And I would like to let's just jump into things. I feel like we actually have we do a lot of work together. We've been working together for a very long time. So I'd just love to have you jump in and kind of share with us, introduce yourself and your organization.
My name, obviously, as Anne said, is Vickie Patterson, and I'm the Executive Director with the Bay Area Workforce Development Board. And we are one of 11 workforce development boards across the state of Wisconsin. And we primarily serve, I would say, Northeast Wisconsin down the lakeshore. So that is really looking at 11 counties from Florence down to Sheboygan, over to Door County, and then Shawano County. And we work, as our name says, workforce development. So we're in the space of, employment and training for individuals, for job seekers. We work with employers and their employees, their incumbent workers, with upskilling. So all things workforce development around employment and training and
Amazing.
education.
And how did you first get connected to Generator and then ultimately our skills program?
So several years ago, Sarah Clapper, who's another coworker at Bay Area, and I were at an event, and we met Joe Kurgis, who's the one of the founders of Generator. And just in talking to him, we learned a little bit about the Skills Accelerator program, and just were interested in that. But at that time, we didn't um, have a way of utilizing it or partnering with Generator.
Mhm.
And then I would say it was the spring of 2022
Yep.
when DWD, we had some funding through the Worker Advancement Initiative. And we were really looking to do something different with it, something that we hadn't done before, but that we wanted to have an impact with. And Generator actually was one of the applicants for that grant. And it was what we were looking for. We wanted to look in that space of upskilling. And we also were wanting to do something that had more of a virtual component to it. We were coming out of COVID. There was more of an interest in that virtual, and online training at that time. So that's really what we were looking for, and it fit the bill. And that's how we started working with Generator.
Yeah, and I can't believe that now that was like just over 4 years ago.
I know.
And
Mhm.
since then, I feel like with that particular funding stream, we were able to upskill. I think it was over 100 people that we did together. And now we're currently working on another project with you. If you want to speak to a little bit about that and kind of how that's different, because to your point, your team is very innovative in the different programs that you do want to offer to the constituents that you work with, which isn't something that we always see with a lot of workforce development boards. So I'd love for you to kind of speak to that a little bit and why that's important to you.
And so, Anne, you asked about what we're currently doing
Yes,
with
if you want to share
Generator.
about what
So,
we're currently doing, but then kind of piggyback off of the innovative way, like the initial way grant that we did, you wanted to do something different. And with this grant, we're doing something different. But why are doing different things also important to you and your team?
well, so primarily what we find we work with government grants. And, within those grant parameters, there's not a lot of flexibility. And so I think when we have the opportunity through a grant to do something a little more flexible, a little more innovative, we jump on that. And I think, with Generator, it's not the path of least resistance. It's not, you guys don't just go do something easy. If we have something in mind that we would like to try, you really work with us on how do we make that happen. And so I think it's just that opportunity. And so, from the first way grant, we were doing something a little bit different that we hadn't done before and had such great success. And actually, and I think it was like closer to 200 people that we trained with that grant
Amazing.
at that time. And so, we just had we developed, such an appreciation for what you do and the results of that more recently we had another opportunity through some additional, more flexible kind of funding. And so what we're doing is a little bit something different. We're actually still incorporating some of the traditional skills accelerators in this current opportunity, but then we're also staggering some generative AI training with incumbent workers through this. And so far we're on our third cohort with it
Yeah.
and have had a really positive response to it. And again, this is something that we have begun working with incumbent workers, with employers on upskilling their workforce. We have just started kind of getting in that space
Mhm.
from what we've traditionally done. And so here again, generators kind of helping us move into that space in a different way. And I think excitingly with the generative AI component and preparing individuals and employers for that and what's coming. So just again, an opportunity to do something that we haven't done before, work with us on making it happen.
Well, I appreciate that, and you're absolutely right. Our team definitely will, ultimately do what we can to see if there's a good fit between kind of the programming that you want to offer and what we can, what we already have, or ultimately what we could create together. And we love working with your team because it is fun to create kind of some of these alternative options for individuals who are getting funded through government programs, right? And it doesn't always have to just be a particular program, but we can, with the flexible funding, do different things.
Yes.
Especially with the generative AI training, as you mentioned, a lot of the work that we've been doing previously was with traditional job seekers, so individuals who are looking for full-time employment. Whereas this generative AI, we're actually working with business leaders, and we're helping them figure out kind of like within their own organization, like do they understand what generative AI is? Do they understand how it can work with them? Do they understand kind of how they could potentially roll it out to the rest of their team? And that is something that, from what we've seen, even across Wisconsin, you're the first workforce development board who has brought this to the table. So, from an innovative perspective, like you guys are typically always leading the way, but we're really grateful to be on that path with you.
Yeah, and I think for us, to do this, what's nice is every employer's in a different space and in a different place with generative AI. Some are just looking at how would we begin, and others have tried. And I think this training that you are offering and that we're doing right now, it can meet all of their needs. Like it can really help them,
Yeah.
no matter where they're at. And so I think that's what's nice again too, is it's very adaptable that way. And so I think it's just such a benefit and such a value to offer to them. So
Absolutely. And I would say that that's kind of a relic of our traditional programming, and that we want to meet every individual who comes through our program where they are, whether they're, again, a job seeker or somebody who's already in business. And we want to get an understanding for what they've already been doing and then figure out where they want to go and then ultimately bridge that gap in between. And the way that we've been able to do that with the generative AI program is to bring that use case to the table. So it's not just kind of, yes, you're going to come and you're going to learn and you'll have a lot of information and knowledge shared with you, but really, you're also going to have an opportunity to deploy a lot of the things that you're learning about AI specific to a challenge that you're having in your own business. And I know you've been on some of those calls where we've had the showcases and people are, deploying the ideas and ultimately like the agents that they've built, or the different pieces that they've put together that support essentially like the operations becoming more efficient, becoming more productive, and in some cases even driving either higher revenue or lowering costs.
yeah, yeah, quite a variety of ways that people are, the use cases are really interesting because you can see, all the different ways that it can be applied and what value can come out of that training. So yeah, that's been very interesting.
Yeah. And talk to us a little bit about how partnering with our particular skills accelerator has made an impact for the region that you're working in, whether it's the individuals or the businesses, but also with your team. We interact with a significant number of your team members, but everyone from you to Sarah to Amy, and that's been a wonderful relationship too. So I would just love to hear kind of how that's supported the work that you all are doing.
Well, I think, one of the several impacts, several different areas. So I can talk about this quite a bit. But I think, the one thing that always comes to our mind when, we talk about generator is the partnership. And, I've said this before, but what we appreciate is the reciprocal nature of the partnership. You think of us, we think of you. Like if you have an idea, if we do just a brainstorm, I mean, some of the best
Yeah.
conversations are just when, hey, I have this idea, or what about? And just to be able to talk that through. And it may or may not be something that we work on together,
Yeah.
but it's benefiting one of us in some way, and that I think um, our staff have just, appreciated so much. And it's been such a benefit to us. And it so much so was that we now kind of have like a list of values for if we want to partner with somebody. And that really spurred out of our work with Generator because we would say, gosh, they're such a great partner. And so we created this, and it really is like if somebody approaches us, do they meet that? Do they kind of fall in our values that we want for a partner? And if not, we don't pursue it. So it really kind of drove that internally for our staff because we all feel that. Um, but I think the other thing that, just the impact of it is, that innovation, allowing us to try to find ways to do stuff that we couldn't do before, or do things in a different way. And it might not seem like huge change. It might not seem like, well, why can't you do more upskilling? Your workforce development board, why aren't you in that space? Um, it's not always that easy when you're working within the confines of a specific grant. And so I think just that flexibility and how to make that happen and talk through some of that has been huge. And upskilling is becoming more and more important. You guys know this. It's just the faster rate of change for jobs. And actually, there was a study that Lightcast had done, and it noted that the average job has had a third, 30% of its tasks have changed from 2021 to 2024. So 30% of what an average job does, those skills have changed in that short time. And that's not slowing down. So how do we help employers keep good employees, and just upskill them? And I think it's just going to be a continued space that, that we need to find ways to support each other. And so I think, just the impact that generators had in helping us get in that space is huge. I would also say, one of the benefits of Generator, also the programming, the Skills Accelerator program, really is that model of not just doing training. You're not just providing an online training, that coaching that goes along with it.
Yes.
Even in our traditional WIOA programming, the respondents tell us that not the thing that makes the most difference to them is not the money that we help them with training. It's their career planner helping them stay on their goals. That is the most important thing that had the most difference. And I think there's not a lot of online training, like short-term online training, that provide that. You go through the training, you might have help while you go through the training, but after that, maybe you don't. And Generative kind of provides that whole range, through the training, and then particularly for the, when you're working with unemployed, underemployed individuals to kind of skill into an accelerated program, that continued coaching after, when they become not a training participant, but a job seeker.
Yeah.
And that is huge and different. And the impact of that is felt. The completion rates for training, like our programming, I'm thinking back to the first, grant that we did with you, it was like 75, 80% credential completion, and over 50% employment. And that was at a short term after they finished the program. We didn't track after that, so it went up from there, because you stayed with them to help them until they found employment. So just, the impact of that alone, I think on the individuals and on our, from our perspective is huge. And yeah, I mean, I just think the results of what we've seen with the grants that we've worked on with you are tremendous.
Thank you very much for sharing all that. It's nice to hear that that kind of like the way that we see ourselves, right, as a team and as a training provider, which is to be equally a thought partner with the community organizations that we work with, but also to be a really well-oiled machine when it comes to deploying the actual training as well as the alumni support. It's really nice to hear that that is actually coming through. Because that is one of the big pieces of the intention that we bring to the table with our training program is to see the whole person and to make sure that we're supporting that whole person in a lot of the respects that they have, not just from job training, but as you move through with job searching, it can become really challenging. It can become isolating. At times it can become depressing. And so our job that we see is to really be able to be that partner for our participants and for our graduates to kind of not only just remind them that they have a lot of opportunities that we can share with them, but to really remind them that this is the space that they're moving into and that they have someone there with them all along the way. So we do provide our alumni support services and our job search support services in perpetuity for all of the individuals that we work with. And it's nice that we also have partners like you in the community too, that we can basically tag team and make sure that we're supporting them in different ways. So I really appreciate the fact that you guys are able to kind of see us holistically as well. Not just, again, we're not just a training provider. We are that, but we
Right.
are also a job search provider, a job opportunity provider. And then ultimately, like you said, we also want to have conversations of brainstorming. We want to hear
Mhm.
what the new things that you guys are looking to do. And we want to bring the things that we've seen across the country back to you too and say, hey, have you thought about this? Or, is this an area that you're looking to get into? I even remember, I think it was before this, it was now I guess it was just over a year ago when I think you had called and you were like, there's a new way grant and we're thinking about doing these things. And I remember you and I, just like this in a Zoom room, we're like, okay, well, how could we bring something new and different while also bringing kind of the traditional skills training program for under and unemployed? And here we are almost finished with that grant and it's been going really well. And we've got both individuals who are job seeking and getting roles and then also upskilling those incumbent workers as well.
Yeah. 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 It's just been, we've seen such success in that model. And, so much so, Anne, that when we had another grant completely separate, it was focused on childcare.
Hmm.
And when we were thinking about what we wanted to do, we're like, well, how can we have an impact? Some of the things that were, kind of proposed really wouldn't have had a huge impact on the community. And so we actually thought of, wow, what about that, the generator model almost
Hmm.
in such a different capacity because it was focused on childcare
Yeah.
and in that space, but really kind of was this training that was provided for individuals in that field, and then coaching after it and mentoring is
Love
basically
that.
what it was, and it was hugely successful with the success of early child care centers.
Yeah.
And we partnered with Wisconsin Early Childhood Association to do that. But what made us think about how could we structure something to impact the child care area, which is such a huge issue and really supports the workforce, right?
Yeah.
But what can we do to impact that? The model that we worked with gener8tor is really kind of what helped us kind of decide and choose how we could go about approaching that. So, I
Oh
mean,
my
it's gone
gosh.
beyond even, that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing. That's the first time I think you've shared that with me. And that's really exciting. And I love hearing too that again, as you say, that it's not just the participants that realize that really that one-to-one relationship with someone who's there to both support you, but also hold you accountable to the goals that you want to achieve, is the differentiating factor. And
It
that is
is.
something that, again, for our team, that's the secret sauce. That is exactly why we feel we're as successful as we are with the completion rates that we have and with the credential attainment that we have is because we have an amazing group of program managers that are able to connect individually with every single person that comes through the program, see them, hear them, know them, and then ultimately be able to continue working with them and guiding them into the next stages. So hearing
And I
that
think,
you're doing that as well is just, I love it. It's
yep.
pushing it
And
forward.
it's something that can't be understated. It really is the difference that coaching and career planning is such a huge difference. And I think when, just a typical person hears, somebody that's not involved in this business or somebody that, is, maybe even an employer or maybe somebody in the legislature, they hear and they think, oh, the training dollars, that's where we need to focus, right? More money has to go to training. Um, but if you don't support that training with the coaching and, make it all inclusive, it is not as effective.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, when you look at it, it's more than a training program. And how do we, change that narrative? Like even in our WIOA, yeah, we can provide training funds, but it's the career planning and the coaching that helps people succeed. And they tell us that. Same with you. You're not, it gets packaged as a training. We offer these
Yeah.
trainings, these skills, but it's so much more than that because the piece that really helps make it successful is that side of it, right? And so I think, and like I said, we used that model with a child care grant focused on child care centers and in-home child care, and how to best support individuals in their training, but then also that mentoring and coaching. And um, that's not always something that people find value in funding, is the staff, right? It's the training.
Yeah.
And so I just think that that's really something that is a huge piece of any training program, and that's what's so valuable. What gener8tor does too. So
Well, thank you. Like I said, we that's the part of our program that we find to be, again, the most impactful and
yeah,
ultimately what drives the outcomes of the way, the people who finish the training and ultimately too, those that find employment as well. And so we make sure that we're just right there alongside every step of the way. Probably at some points, people probably don't enjoy hearing from us all of the time, but it's because we want them to know that they aren't alone in that process. And that even if they haven't, been in the training for a month or two, that we're still here and we're going to support them. Because to your point as well, taking a training while also looking for a job is a lot of effort and a lot of energy and a lot of work. And so it does often take time for individuals to kind of move through the training and then also, kind of start and move through the job search. And so we as a training provider, we are tracking, 3 month, 6 month, and 12-month post program to make sure that the individuals that do come through and finish our program are finding the roles that they're looking for. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you noticing that. What advice would you give to any other employers or organizations that are considering a partnership like what we have?
um, I would say reach out to you or reach out to us if they want to ask us, but reach out to
Yeah.
you, if they have an idea or if they have a need that they see. If they have a very specific need for upskilling that they have, reach out to you. But if they just have we're thinking about, um, reach out to, I would just suggest that they reach out to you and run that by you. Because, every organization, um, they might have the same need for a specific type of training, but how you go about it might be different. And I think that's what's so flexible with gener8tor too. It's not just a standard, this is the training, this is what it is, this is, how we work with you. You work to tweak it if it needs to be. And so I really, I think that if they have, just even an idea of something that they need, or they've noticed a need, they're not sure how to go about it, just to reach out to gener8tor and have a conversation, talk about it. Because I think the one thing I can say is, you guys are just so great at kind of finding solutions. I mean, we come, we're like, oh, here's what what we'd like to do, and that's all we have for you is, this is what we'd like to do, and somehow you guys, you kind of find that solution
Oh,
and
yeah.
help us get there. So I just think, even if somebody's not sure what it is, but they identify a need, have a conversation and, see where it goes.
That's great advice. And I think that, as you could see, I'm kind of lighting up is those are our favorite spaces to be, this idea of what do you have and what could we create from it? Kind of like what's the potential here and how can we move that potential into the actual implementation of a particular program?
And then
And
even, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, even for employers, like, that's looking at their training needs.
Mhm.
But then I think also of employers, check out what skills accelerators are offered on gener8tor's website. Because if you're an employer and you're looking for employees in that might have that kind of training, connect with gener8tor, because then you can be an employer of interest and have access to some of those individuals that are coming out of that training. So on both ends, that if you're an employer, I feel like just if you have a need for upskilling, contact you. But also if you're just somebody looking for individuals in those areas, check out what skills accelerators are offered, and then connect with gener8tor to be an employer, kind of sponsor of taking graduates of the program too. Another opportunity.
Absolutely. And we do. We have over 3,000 graduates who have, project management, IT, business professional, data analytics, all sorts of skills that are currently, very much in demand and are also going to be needed as we move into kind of the next phase of what work looks like as, we move through the AI craze and all of those different things. So, yeah, we're happy to share our graduates with employers. And then we're also obviously happy to connect with employers if they are looking for upskilling as well. So last question for you. And again, thank you so much for your time today. If you had one ask for the audience, what would that be?
I think I kind of almost said it. I think, I mean, for the employers, just, what I just mentioned, I would ask, that they consider just reaching out for whatever those needs are they have, whether it be on the, skilling side or not. But, for individuals that are out there that are looking for, boy, I'd like to gain some skills in this area, or I'm thinking about doing this. If you're an individual as well, look, on Generator's website, see what skills accelerators they offer and upskill because it is just becoming more important. And I think if you're somebody who, is working, it's hard to take a long thing. This is self-paced. It's nice. So I think for an individual, um, one of the things I would hope that gets out today too is, consider taking a generator program. Um, and, just especially if already know and fit into one of those categories.
Amazing. Well, Vickie, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your partnership. And ultimately, thank you for being such a supporter of our programming and helping us also continue to get better and better because the way that we do that is by having you guys as a partner and having those brainstorming conversations and kind of being able to think about like what are the actual needs of the workforce and how do we adapt to those needs versus us looking at like, hey, we've got these particular trainings and we want to push them into the spaces. It's no, that information has to come organically from you and from the people that you work with. And then we adapt and adjust and make sure that our programming is concierge styled to all of those needs. So I really, I love working with you. I love working with your team. I know my team does as well. And so I just want to say thank you again. And we're excited to see you at the TDCon conference, which will be happening
Yes.
in April. So for those of you that are in the Wisconsin area, but Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, if you can join us at the TDCom conference in Green Bay, April 21st and 22nd, we would love to see you there too.
Yes, and Generator's a sponsor, Diamond sponsor for the TDCon event this year. So they will be there in person,
Yes.
along with all of the workforce boards around the state, the staff from the workforce board. So just a great opportunity if you're interested in hearing more about this, connecting with Generator, connecting with boards to have these conversations. It's really kind of a dynamic time in
Yeah,
workforce development.
it
And there's
is.
so much potential and possibility that that's the one thing I love is the conversations that we have. Like I just love talking to your team and I love talking to the other boards. So I think, to have everybody in one place at TDCon is going to be fantastic.
Yes, we can't wait, especially being a virtual first team. We always love to actually get to see people in person. So we're really looking forward to it. And thank you again for again supporting our program and all the different things that we do.
And thank you. Thank you. And all of you at Generator. We
Of course.
appreciate working with you.
Absolutely. Okay, thanks, Vickie.